and the omnibus. So I was forced into the Archers when I was a child. And look, it's come back to bite me later on. I'm awash with this stuff.
The Archers is the world's longest-running radio show, with more than 15,000 episodes broadcast. Despite being a rural flavor show, The Archers is recorded in the heart of...
Okay, so let's unpack this. Today we've got a really unique set of sources, doing a deep dive into an audio drama, basically capturing these, slices of life.
Yeah.
We're talking conversations, real-time problems people are facing, personal stuff coming out, all from this popular series.
Exactly, and it's quite fascinating, isn't it?
It really is, and our mission here, I guess, is to pull out the fundamental human experiences, the complex relationships, the tensions hiding beneath the surface of these everyday moments.
Yeah, like how personal struggles and work decisions get tangled up.
Right, and how people deal with honesty and trust and big changes.
And it's worth saying, I think, that even though these are fictional stories, they really do mirror challenges that we all face in communication, work, our connections.
Totally. They give us this kind of lens, don't they?
Mm-hmm. A lens into those dynamics that often go unspoken. We can see these sort of universal truths playing out.
Okay, so let's dive into the first segment. We start off, and you can almost feel the distress coming from Stella. It's palpable. And her partner, Pip, is clearly picking up on it, getting worried. Something's definitely weighing on Stella.
Oh, absolutely. And the professional pressure is just immense. You hear about trouble at the board meeting, right? Mm-hmm. And Brian, this key figure, his constant micromanagement, even being outright rude at the cricket match, of all places.
Yeah, that seemed pretty unprofessional.
It did. And the root of it all, it's Justin's, what's called his mad idea of justice. He wants to rewild 500 acres of good farmland at BL Borsetshire land.
Which is a huge deal.
Massive, especially because Brian apparently relies on that land for income.
Yeah.
And the twist, the really painful part for Stella, is she feels it's her fault.
How so?
Well, she's the one who persuaded the BL board to conduct an ecological survey in the first place. And that survey is what gave Justin the idea or the justification. So she feels like she's completely messed everything up.
Wow.
Yeah. She says she's stuck in the middle. Just caught.
That's a terrible feeling. And you can see how it just bleeds into her relationship with Pip, right? Pip notices Stella's gone really quiet. She keeps things to herself, doesn't share. Mm-hmm. And this makes Pip feel like she's being kept at arm's length, like maybe she's not as invested, in the relationship as she thought. What's going on there, communication-wise?
Well, it's a classic communication breakdown, isn't it? It's complex. Kenton, who knows them both, he offers Pip some advice. He suggests Stella, may need to work out what she feels first, and points out that she might be reserved by nature.
Sort of suggesting Pip should give her space.
Kind of, yeah. It touches on that tension between giving space versus needing connection yourself. But then it comes to a head later. They have this confrontation. Pip says she feels really hurt that Stella couldn't confide in her.
Yeah, understandably.
But Stella's reason, it actually comes from a good place, or so she intended. She said she didn't want to add to the stress on Pip, because Pip, as Stella puts it, had enough on your plate with Rosie, their daughter.
So trying to protect her.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how those good intentions, Stella trying not to burden Pip, actually backfire. They lead directly to Pip feeling hurt and distant.
It's ironic, really.
It is. It forces you to ask, is shielding someone always the kindest thing? Or does real closeness need that vulnerability, even when it's hard?
That's a really important point. So the takeaway for us, for a listener, it's about that need for honest communication, isn't it? Yeah. Even when it feels difficult, or when you think you're doing the right thing by staying quiet.
And understanding different styles, too. Realizing silence isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's, misjudged protection. But it can still cause pain.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit from that quite heavy situation. Let's look at something a little lighter, maybe, but just as relatable. The drama unfolding at the Bull Pub.
Yes, the staffing issues.
Right. Kenton and Joy, who run the place, they're dealing with what they call the Tara saga.
Chuckle slightly saga is right.
So Tara, their employee, she claims she has jury service.
Yeah.
But, turns out she's actually off sunning herself on a Greek beach. Found a last-minute special offer.
Oh dear. Caught out.
Completely.
Yeah.
So Kenton and Joy are in a tight spot. They're asking themselves, is it a sackable offense? Which normally you'd think yes, but.
It was so hard to find someone reliable in the first place.
Exactly. And the agency they used was, in their words, next to useless. So it's a real dilemma.
It is. But then things take a turn, don't they?
They really do. This is where it gets interesting.
Because Joy, instead of just, stressing about Tara, she steps up. She asks, "What about me? Could I do it?" Says she's really enjoyed the last few days actually working the shifts herself.
Which is quite brave, really, putting yourself forward like that.
It is. And Kenton and Joy's reaction is immediate. It's positive. "You'd be great," they say. Straight away, they're planning a proper interview, even involving Joy's mom, Fallon.
So the problem actually created an opening.
Precisely. The crisis, Tara's lie. It highlighted a need, but also revealed Joy's potential and willingness. It acted like a catalyst, really, for a positive change that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise.
And here's where it gets really interesting for us listening in. It's a fantastic example of how sometimes unexpected problems, these difficult moments, they aren't just dead ends.
No, they can be springboards.
Totally. They can open doors to something new, maybe even better.
Yeah.
And it just shows the power of initiative, like Joy taking that step. It completely transformed a bad situation. Okay, so moving from work dilemmas to relationship dynamics, let's explore Fallon and Harrison's relationship. They're dealing with long distance, which adds its own layer of complexity. And Harrison, for Fallon's birthday, he really pulled out all the stops. She talks about how much effort he made.
He really did, didn't he?
Yeah. A fabulous pub up in the Dales for lunch, lazy morning in bed first, then this whole picnic thing, a blanket, flask of coffee, sandwiches. Simple but thoughtful.
And the gift was quite personal, too.
Oh, the charm bracelet. Yeah, with 6 to start with, including that little police car charm nodding to his job. Fallon seemed to love that.
But the grand finale was quite something.
The plane. A flight in a tiny green plane from small private airfield. Lasted almost an hour. Fallon called it so intense. Sounds incredible. Really romantic.
It absolutely does. But then you connect this huge effort to the reality of their situation. Fallon admits, doesn't she, that just a couple of weeks ago, she was worried. She thought we weren't missing each other enough.
Right, that doubt was still there.
Exactly. Even after this amazing day, she still has that thought lingering. It's just, with me here and him up there, the distance is still a factor.
So how do they navigate that?
Well, this is where Joy comes in again, actually, with some really quite profound advice. She tells Fallon, basically, relationships don't have to be a particular way. They can be any shape you like as long as it suits you both.
That's powerful.
It is. She even uses her own relationship with Mick as an example of something that works for them, even if it's unconventional. And this raises a really important question, I think, for all of us, which is, how do we define success or satisfaction in our own relationships? Especially the ones that don't neatly fit into, the traditional boxes or what society tells us they should look like.
Right. Challenging those preconceived notions.
Precisely. It pushes back against this idea that there's only one right way for a relationship to be or to work.
That's a great point. It's about defining what works for you, not for everyone else. Okay, so for our final segment, we need to touch on something a bit heavier. A more somber note that's still unresolved, and it involves Kenton again.
Yes, this relates back to a past trauma for him.
It does. We find out Kenton's quite distressed. The police have called him about Marky. Now, Marky is someone involved in the night you were attacked. This was clearly a very traumatic event for Kenton, involving violence and a dog attack specifically.
And the police want his help now.
Yeah, they're trying to get Marky and his gang convicted for illegal dog trading, using evidence potentially linked to that night.
Yeah.
But for Kenton, it's dredging it all up again.
Understandably difficult.
Terribly. He says he can't get that night out of my head, especially the image of the dog coming at me. And his reluctance is just, it's so clear. He says, I don't know if I can go through it all again.
And what's really striking here, I think, is how even when things seem to be moving forward externally, like the police making progress on the case, the internal impact of trauma can just roar back.
Yeah.
It can really derail things in the present, and you see it immediately affecting Kenton. His ability to focus on current responsibilities, like sorting out the interview for Joy at the pub, it's hampered by this resurfacing trauma.
So the past is directly impacting the present.
Absolutely. It's a potent reminder that trauma, unresolved trauma, it can really affect our focus, our decision-making, just our ability to be present, often in ways we don't even fully recognize consciously. Some wounds just run incredibly deep.
It really shows that healing isn't always a straight line, is it? The past can definitely cast long shadows. So bringing all these threads together, what does this all mean? We've gone from these intense relationship communication breakdowns
To unexpected opportunities popping up out of workplace problems.
to rethinking what romance and partnership even look like when distance is involved.
And finally, acknowledging the lingering power of past trauma.
Yeah. And all of these insights, these little nuggets of knowledge, as you might call them, they came from just listening to people talk about their lives, their problems. It's quite amazing how these seemingly simple conversations reveal such universal human truths.
They really do. And maybe here's something to think about as we wrap up. Consider this. We live in a world that's constantly feeding us ideas about how relationships should be, how careers should look, even how we should deal with farming or personal struggles.
Right, there are always expectations.
Always. So how much of the stress we feel personally comes from trying desperately to squeeze ourselves into those predefined molds, instead of perhaps trusting our own truths, finding our own unique ways forward, and defining success and well-being on our own terms? Something to mull over, perhaps.
So, what are you doing now?
Just getting ready for the next episode. Just
And,
moving mics around.
So, what do you do?
I do the spot effects on the archers. Any
Are you what we call Foley then?
kind of, yep. That's,
Okay. And these are all part of the paraphernalia of production.
yep, that's the ball bar. That's,
This one.
yep, that's.
Haley so wanted to be in their own place when their baby came. It's due in 2 months. Not much chance of that now. No. I mean, it would have been a stretch for them financially, mind, but I just wish there was something practical I could do to help them, Caroline. I mean,
I think The Archers has had this immense popularity over the years, basically because it has always very accurately reflected the reality of life and living in a rural community at whatever